All right. Okay, I think we're live, and there's one person that showed up on the beach. So I'm here at the sands right before I'm actually on Lifeguard Tower 18. So you are, at least. There's Lifeguard Tower 18 right there, and there's a lifeguard coming down the sand I can see. I'm here to do another book reading of my book, Going Alone. We're going to read today the chapter titled My God is a Little God, which is my vain explanation of the absence of deity, not found in the deep desert wastes. I'm going to put the camera over here, maybe. Try to get it out of the wind so it won't have the windy sound, the blowing sounds. Let's put that like this. Aims down a little bit. There, that'll do the job. Okay, it's a short chapter. It won't take long, which is good because it's really, really cold today and really, really blowing. I was gonna go for a swim immediately after this, but I think I'm gonna hold off and go swim in the evening. There's something about swimming when the sun goes down, so it just makes it so much better. I've got to stick close to the camera too. I don't have my wireless microphone, so here we go. And I might carry the camera around with me. All right, so here's the start of the chapter, which you can see right here. My God is a little God, and then there's an image there of the home of good and evil, which is the home of faith. That's a home of good and evil is something else. That's a place out in the desert that where that's a cave that. It's a pretty remote place. Pretty interesting as well. Okay, let's get started. I'll hold it here. I'll try to keep it out of the wind. My God is a little God, expecting nothing more. And here's a quote. We have not yet encountered any God who is more merciful as a man who flicks a beetle over on its feet. That's by Annie Dillard. Here we go. I have come to realize that the muse I so often speak of, and which is the source and inspiration for so many of my thoughts, must be the same muse which heralds and inspires the words, music, thoughts, and motivation of the religious. A distinction, though, is that I apply and attribute no animating will to this contrived agency beyond the scope, breadth, force, and power of my own weak and faltering intellect and imagination. It is no wonder, then, that I neither trust my God's wisdom, guidance, or even its mere existence. My God is a little God, which can neither speak, write, argue, or even think without my own willful cooperation. That doesn't mean that I'm a God. That just simply means that it doesn't exist. And so if I want to have the God say anything, I have to make it up myself because its non-existence is insufficient for it to speak on its own. Following that's the only bit of proper prose in the chapter. Following that are the blurbs, right? You know, the little bits and pieces of inspiration that came to me while I was writing the book, and those will add. That's the remainder of the chapter. Here we go. Notes from my muse. I call them the notes. I told my little God of the desert today. He'd never heard of such a place. I admired his honesty in fessing up his ignorance. This may be one of his stronger traits. He seemed afraid to learn of the solitude in the desert, and he asked me if any gods, while I turn a page, or spirits might be found there. I told him it seemed that there are none in the wastes. I didn't bother explaining that it's all wastes. And then there's a little pause, because the next one, see the tilde mark right there? That separates the next blurb. And I'll just add a little pause between each one as I go. It's not long. Caring for a very small God isn't unlike tending to a young child. Both are convinced of their omnipotence and immortality, and each at times rails at the world with an impressive wrath and fury. The difference being, the child possesses an anger they can truly inflict upon the world, while my God, my little God, relies on my belief to achieve even the slightest destructive end. My little God begged me today to believe in him. I think he's become suspicious his immortality is dependent upon my belief and patronage. Did someone tell him of his contingent existence? Has he learned the root cause of his being? How very afraid he must be. I told my little god that we're going to the desert tomorrow. He seemed unsure after I explained the place, carefully so as to not offend his growing sense of omniscience. I told him the desert was a place for losing what we cherish and for gaining what we fear. He nodded slowly, muttering something about the need of a temple. I suspect he'll soon be very disappointed. My little god has no sense of his ignorance, which I reckon the greater measure of his omniscience. I told my little god about the helpful muse we might meet in the desert tonight and tomorrow. He wasn't at all pleased and complained of my holding another before him. It didn't help that I explained my muse is dead and not even real. Such threats he leveled at me then. Maybe when he meets the nothing himself, he'll realize how little there is to fear. Let me put this up here now. I've reached the near edge of the deep desert, and oh my, it's cold, just like today. I didn't come prepared for this, and I've still 100 miles to go before I reach Siberia and the safety of the desert camp. The sun's just now gone away, and I know the deeper cold is coming. This is scary. Just like the summer heat, which now has passed, was scary. Only this scary burns in a way that brings on shivers and chattering teeth, rather than delirium and fatigue. I'll bundle up now as best I can and turn on the motorcycle's heated hand grips, which are a peripheral comfort. My small god is noticeably absent now. Have I perhaps been forsaken? He's been pestering me for a prayer. He's been pressuring me for prayer. Maybe he thinks I'll relent in the wild. I've discovered my little god is afraid of the new horizon which I uncovered this weekend. Such irony that I've been hooked up with a domestic god, a deity of home and hearth, a god more comfortable behind a walled garden or a locked door than amidst the frontiers of creation. My little god wants nothing of the larger world and covers his ears when I speak of the great indifference. It's no wonder he's so jealous of others. His wrath now is no surprise. I wonder how we can reconcile our difference, find peace between his small heaven and the greater universe of reality. I suspect I'll simply need to leave him at home when I go out. Let him alone with his certitude and finality, deny and protect him from the vast ignorance and reality which looms like a giant before us both whenever we step foot outside our door. My little god's insistence on immortality is striking given his additional claim to know everything. Shouldn't he understand his immortality cannot possibly survive my death unless I can find another to believe after I am gone? My little god came to me tonight trembling and asking after eternity. I told him I hadn't a clue and could offer no suggestion along these lines. He went away wide-eyed and perplexed. I'll bet he's going to make something up. A benefit of not believing in ghosts is that ghosts never come to scare me. Likewise, monsters, demons, and poltergeist, they all keep their distance. The supernatural seems to only haunt the willing. The skeptical mind offering seemingly infertile soil for what is not really there. My God is small because he has no ample space to live within my mind. He'd probably be a great God, capital G, if I'd only believe. He resides on a dusty and neglected mental shelf where I keep my credulity and faith, a place well illuminated with doubt to keep out the vermin. He'd be much happier on a shelf with certitude or belief. Though it seems I've only enough to sustain the slightest of gods. And the last one. I awoke past midnight to walk barefoot through the dark, not far from the tent, just enough distance to unsettle whatever comfort had seeped in from the warmth of my sleeping bag and the safety of my shelter. I so enjoy the feeling of letting go the rope to anything sound and settled, to drift for a distance, naked and shivering in the cold, to stand vulnerable beneath a vast and seemingly eternal canopy of stars. That's why I reject my muse, those ghosts and my little god. less for the fact that they aren't real, and more for the desire to do without the false comfort their non-existence could never honestly provide. And that's the end of the chapter. It's a very short chapter, like I said. I hope the wind noise wasn't too bad. It probably was. Thanks for joining me. I'm going to sign off for now and head on home. I won't swim now. I'm going to come back in the evening and go for a swim. And then for now, I'm going to take my wife to a nice coffee shop in Long Beach. And we're going to talk about her future plans for her vocation / avocation in our new life to come. Oh, R-Noun 419. Thanks, Kurt. Have a good one. Hey, I hope the audio was good. I hope the wind wasn't too loud. Thanks for joining me. And belated best wishes. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. It's good to see your comment. Take care. Be safe, but not too safe. Bye-bye.